Hello, my name is Martin O'Riordan, General Manager of Mercury IT. This is the beginning of a recording of our live event from yesterday, which was the Reduce Business Cost to Survive live webinar that we actually conducted. Unfortunately, yesterday there was a Microsoft issue across the globe which affected some of their services. One of those being some of the recording functions in Teams. So our recording had the first few minutes corrupted. So I just wanted to put an introduction in for that, introducing myself, as I said, also our special guest, Tim Wakeham from Kinetic, who will be joining us later in the recording. And pretty much just going over that the point of the webinar was about how outsourcing can actually help reduce costs without impacting operational requirements within the business. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the recording. If you're of a size that you can have an internal IT manager, they have full control and they can just outsource components. If it's a full outsource component, we still have that partnership arrangement with the business where we want to be part of that business. So we don't see ourselves as just another vendor. We're not just like an ISP that that you're paying for a service and you never see them. It's a bit of a partnership component where we actually start working within the business. We get to know the business, and that's where that knowledge of the business comes in. Is we do get to know the business. We get to know the people within the business. We have a strong knowledge, a very secure knowledge platform that we use. So any one of our techs who can pick up a problem ticket for a customer has all of the information about that customer at their fingertips straight away. And care factor and less diligence. Certainly, one of the things that you can get out of having outsourcing is when you've got a contract with an outsourced provider, you've got some quite strong controls in the contract. In some ways, it can be easier to control a outsourced company than it can be to control an insourced employee. And as we all know, if anyone here has had employees, they can sometimes create some of the biggest problems in your workplace. Not for any reason of their skill level, but just the everyday, dealing with employees is always a challenge. So, choosing the right technology partner, is there any difference? I actually tend to say that when you look around online for an IT outsource or a managed service provider, they all say the same things on the websites. So do we. And we all say the same things. We all look pretty much the same on a website. You can't generally tell the scale of a business just from a website. Sometimes they'll have some information about how large their team is. It's important to know that, because certainly when you outsource, you want to be outsourcing to a partner that has the scale to be able to deliver all of those specializations as well. It's not really a lot of benefit outsourcing your 2 or 3 person IT team to a 2 or 3 person IT provider. You pretty much have the same scalability there, unfortunately. So we do all say the same things. Why we think we're a little bit different is we do really care about the businesses. Our focus and our drive is about making sure that we deliver our services so that our business partners can actually deliver their services, and we get a lot of satisfaction out of seeing them prosper and grow because they're able to focus on what they do best. Now, what are you looking for in an IT partner? You're looking for experienced and qualified staff. So as I said about that team, so how large the team is can also be quite a significant differentiator, and what sort of skill sets they have. You want to look for some contract flexibility, so you don't want that one size fits all. You want to be able to have a partner that is able to customize their delivery to your needs. So not necessarily that you have to fit in with theirs. So that's something to really look for in a partner. And you want them to be able to scale with you, so you can scale up or down. So that provides that sense of ability to be confident that you can actually grow or shrink if you need to in these sort of uncertain times, and be able to gain the actual cost benefits from that. So, as I said, I was going to talk a bit about the financials. So, at its core, there is pretty much no way that a outsourcer can be more expensive than having in-source staff. And I say that because even if you have one staff member and you are supporting quite a large team, there's going to be a lot of things that they can't necessarily do. So there's going to be components where they have to outsource anyway, or they're going to have to bring in other partners to try and deliver. So if you're looking at it, the average cost of internal IT staff is around somewhere around the 60 to 80,000 for skilled staff, plus on costs. You're starting to look somewhere around $100,000 per staff per member for an internal team. The outsourcing will always be cheaper than that, and it's not just about that cost saving. It's about having a cost saving with the benefits of the scalability and flexibility. Now, sometimes you'll see that one staff person is actually overwhelmed quite a lot, and they seem to be able to cope with everything. But we've gone into businesses where they haven't actually been delivering a lot of the services, so a lot of things just get put into the too hard basket and just don't ever get dealt with. So sometimes we find a lot of skeletons in the cupboard when we go into those sort of businesses where someone has been continually overwhelmed with the amount of workload that they have. Now, to go on from this, we've brought in Tim from Kinetic, and he is one of our customers and one of our partners. So he is going to be able to talk to a little bit about the experience that he's had with outsourcing. So this morning, I'd just like to welcome Tim. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Martin.
Now, Tim is joining us from a mobile because he also had some of the issues jumping in from the Microsoft issues. So, apologies for any of the quality issues there. But yeah, at least we've been able to get a workaround to get him to join us. So, Tim, did you want to start by just telling us a little bit about what is Kinetic?
Sure. So Kinetic is a mass transit provider throughout Australia and New Zealand. We're currently the largest bus operator in the region. We've got roughly 6 brands, several thousand staff and buses across that area. We are, as you mentioned, in a very rapid growth phase at the moment with both M&A and natural growth. So, that leads into that discussion around us being able to rapidly grow without needing to rapidly grow a support team to deal with that additional staff, bus drivers, bus technology. There's a whole range of things in there that would require additional expertise every time we brought on a new business.
Okay, so how is the IT function structured in Kinetic?
So IT at Kinetic is largely around driving value and that kind of force multiplier type thing of providing data services and innovation around how technology can be applied to our business problems, rather than actually managing end user devices and help desk and whatnot. So it's much more of an executive level type service rather than something we apply to all our end users.
Okay, so how does outsourcing fit into Kinetic?
So as you know, Mercury look after all of our BAU type stuff. So all of our end users, their help desk requirements, as well as that management of all our infrastructure, our security, basically anything that you can take off our plate internally so that the IT function is driving the value in the business and being able to spend time on growing the business, as opposed to being bogged down in day-to-day BAU end user support and and that infrastructure piece, which really does require constant upkeep and specialist knowledge that would cost a lot for us to maintain internally, despite it not really being a large enough function that we would need a full-time person for it.
Okay, so what do you think the benefits are for Kinetic for outsourcing?
I mean, you touched on it before. That scalability piece is huge for us. While we're going through quite a large growth phase, you know, it can be quite a lengthy experience to hire appropriately trained and experienced help desk staff, and that's just not something that I have the time in my day to manage on an ongoing basis. You know, we would be going through that process multiple times a year given our current growth rate, and that's just not sustainable. So scalability for sure, and the flexibility that comes with that. Obviously, we don't want to keep on staff one of every type of technician that would be justified in a business of our size when it's probably not quite, we're probably not quite big enough to support all of those staff. So having Mercury look after that and be the backup for those functions is hugely beneficial for us. It allows us to be more agile in how we react to business changes and disruptive technology, because you guys have the expertise to help us out there where we probably don't quite have the bandwidth to be able to manage all those changes ourselves.
Okay, it's good to know that it actually fits in with the model with Kinetic, and it actually provides something that you may not have been able to deliver internally. So do you see that, are there any other value adds that we do provide or we could provide in the future that might assist you with that growth and that sustainability long term?
I think for me, the biggest thing about our relationship with Mercury is that partnership basis. So at Kinetic, we're very big on the idea that our vendors are partners, not just another vendor. And the reason that we like to do that, take that approach, is because it allows us to have a relationship that's really an extension of the business, as opposed to you having a windowed view into what's going on, which probably doesn't give you quite enough information to effectively look after our infrastructure and just consult and give us the information we need to continue driving the IT function from that BAU level. So for us, partnership is quite important. You know, we're largely an open book to you, and likewise, I know what's going on in the pipeline at Mercury. So we're very, we have a very close relationship, and from a communication point of view, that of course means that as soon as I have any issues at all, I've got, you know, an escalation all the way through the business up to yourself and AJ. So that's quite important to us.
Oh, that's good to know. So what's the future for you? So what's your roadmap look like for Kinetic in the technology space? What's the exciting things coming up?
We have quite a lot of exciting stuff in the works. I guess our function IT-wise in the business is to drive that innovation through the business. So, you know, there's a lot of exciting technology in that electric vehicle space. We've certainly got a number of electric vehicles out on the road now, and we're about to expand that fleet into North Queensland. So that's quite exciting from a technology point of view. Coming down through the pipeline are some interesting things around the optimization of our routes to really minimize our environmental footprint and be as responsible as we can as a transport business for our footprint. And probably my personal pet project at the moment is we're looking to roll out the first contactless payments system on buses in Victoria. So that's that open loop ticketing concept of tap your credit card on as you walk on the bus, and that's your ticket.
That sounds good. So there's a lot going on then in the business. So it makes it quite a challenge for you going forward to keep all those balls in the air, I guess.
Absolutely, and that's really where you guys come into it. I mean, it saves me having to have my eye on the day-to-day all the time, and I guess that for me that is the hardest part of outsourcing, is that it's as a bit of a control freak, it's hard for me to let go of knowing exactly what's going on with our staff and what their day-to-day needs are. But from a user experience point of view, I really can't fault Mercury. You know, we have a nice solid SLA that we've agreed on. You know, that's reported on every month, so I have good visibility of the experience our staff are getting, and as soon as if I know of any issues, then I have an account manager that I can reach out to, and we get them resolved fairly quickly.
Thanks for that, Tim, and thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate your time, and I know, as you said, you're quite busy, so I do appreciate you taking the time to actually join us today. So we will just throw open to any questions for anyone, if they've got any questions for either Tim or myself, and we can see if we can try and answer those and let anyone have any of their concerns or questions answered. So. So I've got one question here. What's the difference between a cheaper IT provider and a more expensive one? The cost of actually doing outsourcing does vary quite a lot across different providers, and certainly there are much cheaper providers. There's quite expensive providers, and there are providers somewhere in the middle. We like to think of ourselves in that sort of that midstream. Certainly the cheaper ones generally are smaller businesses which have a lot less overheads, but also they have a lot less specializations in their team. So I guess the biggest difference is that depth of experience and specialization knowledge in the smaller, cheaper versions than perhaps the larger. I guess one of the strengths of our size business is that we are large enough to have that depth, but we're also small enough still to have that hands-on approach, and we can actually have a conversation with our customers in that is quite meaningful, because you know, we do have that relationship with them. So yeah, there are much larger and there are certainly smaller businesses that can provide those same services, and I guess it's just trying to find the one that's going to fit your needs and how they can actually adapt to your requirements as a business. So I think that's probably the key part of a cheaper or a more expensive provider. Do we have any other questions? Oh, someone's typing, so I'll just wait and see what that comes up.
I think just to expand on that a little, Martin, in my experience with cheaper providers, is you tend towards solutions which are potentially not as ideal for your business, purely around the fact that they don't have that full depth of knowledge to be able to draw on. And also, further than that, though, is that you're usually talking about a single person implementing your project, so that the administration piece around that, the project management of it, tends to be a little lacking. You know, that you don't tend to get too much documentation in the way of, you know, what are we doing to manage risk? What are the moving parts here? What disruption are we going to have? What the change management piece looks like? So I think that if you're going to go with a smaller IT business that's cheaper, you need to have all of those things in mind, especially if you're in a business that really requires that kind of documentation and level of information from your supplier.
Yeah, and that is the point. You can get the right fit for your business. So if you have a really small business and you're looking for you know, an IT provider, some of those smaller ones would probably fit. And that's where, as you say, once you get to a certain scale, you're looking for a business that can provide that whole gamut of services and provide it to a level that you would expect in a corporate environment.
Yeah, exactly right. And you can go too far in the opposite direction as well and end up in one of those giant enterprise level service providers that really don't have that hands-on touch, which I think is quite important myself. But you know, obviously, as you reach enterprise levels, that might become less of a problem. But certainly for a mid-sized business, the ability to have all the expertise we need, but still have the hands-on, still have a high-level account manager, I think that's quite important.
Yeah, it's I think that's a really good place for us to be in, where we can have that direct contact and we can have a conversation with our customers, and we do have that in-depth knowledge of their businesses. So when we are building out a roadmap for a customer, we can actually tailor it specific to their needs, and we understand, you know, the challenges that a bus operator may have, and delivering those services to a transport operator or a health business or whatever industry group that they're in, that we can actually tailor it to their needs rather than just a one-size-fits-all. So I've got another question here. How do you find the scalability of outsourcing from support and project service? So yeah, as we sort of mentioned earlier, that the scalability is a big part of outsourcing. It certainly is one of the strengths of outsourcing. So when the projects start to get included, so if we are building out a roadmap for a business and we've got a 2 or 3 or a 5-year plan for a business, and there's going to be some project services coming up, and it might be a full replacement of all of their endpoints, it might be moving them from an on-premise, you know, server environment to a cloud service environment. There are a lot of project services that the outsourcing companies can also provide as well. So the difference there is if you have an in-house IT doing BAU support, they may not necessarily have those skill sets to be able to deliver those project services. And I guess that's where some of that outsourcing components can leverage that scale to have not only the BAU, the generalist support, but also that specialization support that does translate into project services as well.
Even not just from an expertise point of view, but purely from a bandwidth point of view, sometimes that applies as well. I mean, having a small IT team, even if they have the experience, don't always have the bandwidth to be able to push through the volume of projects that are going through a business. And that's where I find our relationship quite beneficial is, you know, I don't need to be managing internally infrastructure projects. We go through a large scoping phase, I get a scope of works, and then Mercury manages the project for me.
And that's, yeah, you make a good point there about the bandwidth, because you do get, you know, that BAU can be quite consuming in a business. Just move aids changes even can be quite consuming, especially when you've got a lot of acquisitions or your growth is quite significant. And certainly being able to see how that bandwidth can be expanded from the outsourcing provider. So we'll be wrapping up just shortly. So during the whole COVID situation, did you have any requirements that were out of the ordinary that you might have had to deal with, Tim?
To be honest, we were actually quite prepared. I guess the good thing is Kinetic is very widely distributed. We have depots and staff from Cairns all the way down the coast to Melbourne and New Zealand. So we were already quite well suited to that remote work and the online meetings and teleconferencing and whatnot. So from that point of view, BAU, we actually weathered that storm quite well. Beyond that, I think the biggest hassle for us has really been that that project piece. I guess having the airport down in Melbourne, the viewers might be familiar with the airport buses down here. Skybus is one of our brands. Obviously, with the airport not operating, that site is completely non-operational. So we accelerated a whole heap of projects which affected that business unit, and that kind of speaks around that piece I was suggesting before about bandwidth, and I guess how do we push through all these projects which probably would have been quite disruptive to the business, but we had an ideal opportunity to do it while the business was not operating. So it was that piece around how do we actually resource these projects, and largely that's been with the help of Kinetic's team at Mercury, and us being, or you guys actually having the capability to scale with that reasonably quickly, so that we could move on the projects quickly while we had the opportunity to do them with minimal business risk.
Yeah, thanks. And I certainly, yeah, I see a lot of those opportunistic parts that we've actually been able to help a few businesses with during that time, where they've gone, well, let's bring a project forward now while we're not necessarily working to the same level, or a particular business unit needs to be shut down so we can put a project through. So it has been, I guess, having that ability to move quickly and adapt quickly is also part of the key requirements. So again, look, we'll wrap it up there today. I do really appreciate your time, Tim. Thank you so much for joining us today. Look, if anyone does have any other questions, you can reach out to us directly, and at any time you can certainly email us. You can contact us through our website. Certainly give us a call. We do still like talking to people on the phone, so please do. And if you do have any questions, just let us know. So thank you, everyone. Thanks again, Tim, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks, Martin.
Thanks.